wears her crown of being the queen of Indian women on screen very lightly. She wears it with a laugh, which comes from somewhere deep inside her. It's not just a surface laugh, which I love so much. And there has so much been said about the way Indian women are now being portrayed on screen, their sexuality, their power, their ambition, their authenticity. But no one does it better than Vidya Balan. And thank you so much for doing that. And thank you so much for joining us today. Vidya, it's such a pleasure to have you.
Oh my God, thank you so much for that lovely, lovely introduction. I'm just developing a bloated head.
No, you never do that, because I think one of the greatest qualities you have is that you don't take yourself too seriously, which I think is very important in today's age, where there's so much anger and rage around us. So, Vidya, I
Right.
want to ask you straight about Shakuntala Devi, because it seems to me that here is one woman who is so perfect and yet so imperfect, and she seems to have embraced her imperfections. And of course, I think that why be normal when you can be amazing has just
Yeah.
become so worthy as well. But what drew you to Shakuntala?
Initially, of course, I only knew of Shakuntala Devi as the human computer.
Right.
To the extent that was in the public knowledge, in the public domain. I mean, that she was in the Guinness Book of World Records, and she was respected the world over
Yeah.
because she did calculations in record time. So that's what I knew about her. But when Anu Menon came to me, and she came to me with a one pager, and she told me, we want to tell the story from the point of view of her daughter.
Right.
So through the lens of the relationship between mother and daughter, because that's what will humanize her. Otherwise you look at her as a genius,
Yeah.
and in that one page, I think I saw some very interesting things. One is that I think her biggest flaw, Kaveri, if I may say so, is that she wanted to have it all.
Yeah.
And as a woman,
Absolutely.
that was, especially in those times, it's still true actually,
Yeah.
but maybe to a lesser extent. But I think uh, she wanted to have it all, and she just lived life to the fullest, unapologetically. And I was just drawn by that. I find such women very inspiring.
Right.
She didn't let uh, she didn't let her gender define how far she got in life. Doesn't matter what the world said or what the world expected
Right.
of her. So, these things, I'm not peppering them with examples yet because I don't want to give away too much about the film, but just the fact that, you know, she was she was literally what you see is what you get.
Right.
I found that amazing, especially for a woman who was young in the 60s and 70s, you know, um, who was a mother,
Yeah.
and yet
Mhm.
who wasn't guilt ridden about the fact that she had a life
Right.
outside of being a mother. I think the one thing that you hear even today from the most successful women is how they're constantly trying to do this balancing act, and it's almost impossible to achieve.
Yeah.
So, all these things on that one sheet of paper, and I said, okay, why don't you write it? So, it's this complexity, these contradictions that excited me about her.
And Vidya, we've seen so many movies about male geniuses, and they tend to be forgiven their flaws because, well, they're geniuses. We don't actually see so many movies about women geniuses.
Yeah, absolutely.
And is it, and the fact that then she had such a turbulent relationship with her daughter, because as you said, the one thing women are expected to do with their mothers is to be a good mom, or at least hope to be a good mom.
Yeah.
Relationship, how is it played on screen? Because even from the trailer it looks explosive, that relationship.
It is explosive. Actually, I believe that every mother-daughter relationship is explosive.
Mother-son also, Vidya. I can
Yeah,
tell you.
I'm sure. But we've seen a lot of that on
Yeah,
screen. We've
that's
not seen too much of, we haven't had too many mother-daughter stories. And here, she wants her mother to be normal.
yeah.
I think it's always, I know that I've heard women say that kids whose mothers are homemakers often envy kids whose mothers are working, they think they're cooler. And on the other hand, for someone like her, I think her daughter just wanted her to be not traveling or just, be a regular mother,
Right.
which she couldn't because her work took her all over the world. So I think whatever the case, whatever your accomplishments, finally, once you're a mother, your expectations from yourself also are kind of maybe tempered down
Yeah,
because you feel like, now it's not about me, it's about the child.
right.
So, which is why I think this was such a fascinating story about a woman who said, no, I am a mother, I
Right.
am a wife, but I'm Shakuntala Devi.
Right.
I'm a mathematical genius. I am the human computer. And she celebrated that. She embraced that as much as she embraced her shortcomings and her, weaknesses and her limitations. I think she didn't expect her to be perfect, but she thought she was amazing just the way she was. I think that's very inspiring as a woman.
Absolutely. It's called the other mother syndrome when your child thinks that the other mother is, the
Yeah,
one
yeah, yeah.
who bakes better cakes, who is at home, and you can never
Correct.
win. You can never win this war.
Absolutely. I agree.
But
I think this film also came to me at a time when I began to see my mother
right,
as a person outside of being my mother.
right.
And I think Shakuntala Devi was offered to me at that time. So suddenly it all made sense.
And Vidya, it's very interesting that even in Mission Mangal and Tumhari Salu, you played mothers who've always, tried to balance life and work. In Salu, you're a mother who embraces work after motherhood, not
Yeah.
after the whole routine. How different was Shakuntala from these two women? Although Tara is also a scientist, and I mean, she works on the mission to Mars. What else? By the way, I love that scene where you squeeze out the toothpaste. I think
Toothpaste.
that is so.
I've experienced that at home.
You
You
must
know,
have done it.
No, I've experienced that at home. My mother used to actually squeeze out the last
Yeah,
speck of it.
yeah. I think that's how all of us were brought up, and
Yeah.
somewhere we forgot it.
No, and I guess you have value for, I think because for my mother's generation, for example, they weren't used to excesses.
Yeah,
So you had to make the most of what you had.
right.
And therefore you valued everything that much more.
Absolutely.
So I've seen that in my life, which is why, when I read that on paper, I was like, wow. uh, but I think, while uh, in Tumhari Sulu, Sulu was a woman who had dreams and aspirations. She was a homemaker, but she had this itch, to try different things. And in her own small world, she would participate in everything. She wanted to do something in life, and that's a story of so many women who don't work
Right.
because they feel that they're not being valued enough. That's also very telling about how we've treated housework
Yeah.
or homemakers so far. Um, they're largely invisible to us.
Right.
But in Mission Mangal, the interesting thing is that she's scientist. She's sending a rocket into space every second day. But that's the story, I think, of most working mothers. That's what you're trying to, constantly balance out. So on the day that she's sending a rocket into space, she's still making poha. She's giving her father-in-law the medicines. She's sorting out a fight between her daughter and her husband. And she's juggling it. It's almost when I read that scene, I was like, how unfair is that?
Yeah.
Now, because if it was a special day for the man,
Yeah.
everyone would be rallying around him.
Right.
But here, she was expected to do everything and rally around herself, if at all she had the time and the energy for
Yeah.
that. But that's why Shakuntala is so inspiring, because she was not trying to do it all. She was trying to have it all.
Yeah.
And that's
Big difference.
that's a big difference.
Right. Vidya, I don't know whether I can ask, or it's giving too much away of Shakuntala, but she also was celebrated for the book she wrote on homosexuality, which arose from her own experience of her marriage. Does the movie talk about that as well? Because that's a very big part of her life.
Yes, it does. You know, it is in the film, but
Okay.
I don't want to divulge anything
Obviously.
beyond that. But it
I
is in the
just
film.
wanted to know because I think it's a very big part of.
Of course, of course. Just the fact that she even wrote a book on homosexuality at a time where probably people didn't know how to spell homosexuality in India. It was that taboo and unacceptable. So I think, yeah, that's a very important aspect of her life, and it has been. It is in the film.
Wonderful. Vidya, I want to talk to you a little about what's going on currently. I want to come back to Nutcut a bit later. But currently, what's going on in the industry. There's someone who's seen so much of it. You've been now in the industry for 15 years. And, I think there are three options that you have when one comes in from what is now known as the outside. You can have anger, you can have surrender, you can have laughter. You've chosen to laugh, which is a very big, a very positive way of looking at all the struggles you've had. And you've had many of them. When you look around at the anger that is there currently, especially after Sushant Singh's death, what strikes with that?
Firstly, I think this lockdown has been very tough on people.
Right,
It's made all of us confront our worst fears, our demons, and sometimes it's not easy. That process is very difficult. It's not easy to accept yourself or your life, and it's almost like an extended vipassana.
right,
you know and I think therefore there's been a lot of all that people may have probably just brushed under the carpet can't can't be ignored anymore. So I think with Sushant Singh passing away, people who felt wronged, people who felt neglected, ignored, whatever, I think it was like they felt, I think there was a sense of identification with him.
right,
Now, the point is, rightly or wrongly, we do not know,
right,
because we never know why he took the step he did. And I think, in my personal opinion, I believe that, to show respect is to actually keep quiet, because you never know. To speculate is, people can come up with all sorts of theories, so I think that's unfair to him more than anyone else, and to his loved ones who really are probably grieving, but I think it's maybe this lockdown has just been very tough on people. Having said that, um, I've been through ups and downs, but I think that's life, Kaveri.
yeah,
And so I don't feel that, to each his own. But I'm of the opinion that, if, for example, I've had all sorts of experiences in the industry. I'm not saying nepotism does not exist. Of course, it is a reality, but let's not forget that nepotism is not the preserve of the film industry.
yeah.
That's how it happens in life, But having said that, I didn't let any of that stand in the way of me doing what I'm doing or living my dream. And I feel very blessed. I think, but everyone is different. So
Yeah.
I think that's where the anger is coming from. All the past rejections and maybe failures and all of that has just shown up um, in a really maybe in a way that people are unable to ignore.
Anymore. Do you
Yeah.
feel that this is a moment in history when the industry needs to take stock of the way its power is structured? Then the gatekeepers are far too powerful.
That's, I feel that's the truth about life. When someone has a lot of power, invariably at some point, that power structure will crumble and give way to a new power structure until that also gets corrupted, is unable to deal with its power, and then that is replaced by something else. So maybe this is that one time, but I don't think that it's that one definitive moment, or it is a tumultuous moment the world over. It is a tumultuous time the world over.
Right.
And the industry is part of that. So I don't think it's just that here it's all very public. And
Yeah.
public figures are choosing to speak about, their whatever their opinions are. They're voicing their opinions vociferously, and which is why it's, but no one can be blamed if someone decides to take their own life.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I just feel like, let him really rest in peace, yeah.
Absolutely. Vidya, also, I think, your own spiritual practices. I know that you have, I don't know the details, but I know that you are a very spiritual person. How has that helped you overcome all the rejections and hurts that I'm sure, you've had as well, like all of us have had, but,
Yeah,
become possibly publicly magnified because of
right.
in the
Yeah,
doing. How
I
have your
think
spiritual practices helped you?
that's definitely held me in good stead. I can only speak for myself, and this is not an advice, or I'm not recommending it to anyone, but in my experience, I think I'm someone who used to pray a lot, and from asking at some point that um, the meaning of prayer changed to say thank you.
Right.
And then I've also been working with a healer for many, many years now. I think it really helps to talk to someone. Generally, not just in this industry, of course, as a public figure, that much more, because there are fewer people you can trust and be transparent with. And sometimes you don't want to talk to your family about things you're going through, because they're emotionally invested in you. So I just think, for an objective point of view, whether that's a healer or a therapist or a counselor or whoever, that's very helpful. I've been with a healer for many years now, and it's definitely, definitely helped me cope with the many demands of my profession, of being a professional, of being a public figure, for sure. And yeah, sometimes, when your films are not working, I've been through huge hormonal issues which affected my body, and I was being criticized for it. That used to take a toll. All of that, I think I've processed because of the healing work that I've been doing.
Yeah, and your style, and even some of the films that you did
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
after delivering such humongous hits. I mean, I think everybody has, the right to a little slack time, but I don't
Yeah.
think that slack time was ever given to you. So, did you feel sometimes that people were just being cruel as they are?
Now, I used to feel that early on in my career, maybe around 2007-8, when I faced that kind of criticism for the first time, but not anymore. I just feel like, you know, I feel I process what you say the way I want to, depending on what I've been through, depending on what I'm going through. Similarly, the way you're reacting also comes from what stage you are
Right,
in life, mentally, emotionally, and all of that. So I've learned not to take it personally.
right.
That's a lot of work, and it's still very tough sometimes, but I work continually on not taking things personally.
Yeah, I think that's the only way to remain sane.
Right.
Let's talk a little about Nutcut, the short film that you acted in and also co-produced. It is such a stunning but also shocking film about what toxic masculinity can do.
Yes.
And you play this woman who suffers from domestic abuse, and also sees her son, very young child, possibly moving towards the same kind of authoritarian male figure that he sees around him. And that scene in the dining table is just very powerful. I recommend that everyone watch that film. Um,
Thank you.
but how difficult was that to do it? Because here on the one side in say Hamari, Tumhari Salu, you have this lovely husband who's, he has his complications, but he's very accommodating. In fact, at one point you call him a guy, you know.
Yeah.
And here, you're also facing the other kind of masculinity. So in life, of course, we have both kinds. But talk a little about how tough it must have been to go through that short film to act.
Actually, as an actor, it wasn't that tough.
Okay,
Um, because the story actually revolved around that child.
right.
And what what uh, what tugged at my heart really was the innocence of that child. The actor, who's actually a girl,
Girl.
Sandra, she was. I'm not even sure she was aware of the dialogues she was mouthing, or the gravity of the scenes that she was doing.
Yes.
I think that's what I would think about often and say, oh my God, and this is what happens with most children when they tend to imitate what the elders around them are doing. There is an absolute innocence because you trust that the elders they can only be right, right?
Right.
And that's what breeds this toxic masculinity. But I think we women are as much victims as we are perpetrators of this toxic masculinity, because our patriarchal mindset is really deep rooted in all of us equally. But which is why it's so amazing that a woman like her, coming from where she does, decides to take that punt and
Right.
actually tell her child a story which she's hoping will bring about a change of heart and mind. Because what do by just preaching to the child is not going to learn. Actually, children only learn through example.
Right.
So the examples around that child are teaching him something completely different from what she'd like. She's going through domestic abuse on a daily basis, and she does not want her child to have that sort of relationship going forward with the women in his life.
Right.
And just add to this, like I said, this toxicity in the world, this inequality, this. So I think that was very powerful. As an actor, it wasn't really tough, but I'm very proud to have done this film. I think this was perfect, to tell this story in 33 minutes, because it's so gut wrenching
Yes.
that a longer format would have been too much to take.
Right.
So when I saw it as a 30-minute film, I said, okay, now this I'm going to do.
Vidya, what attracts you to the characters that come to you? I don't know how many scripts come to you in a week. I can't even imagine.
I think I don't know. I've not figured what it is about
Yeah.
a character or about a story that calls out to me. But when it calls out to me, I pay heed. And
Right.
when it doesn't, I pay heed.
Right.
That's another learning that's happened over the years. Not to say that I won't get swayed, or I haven't gotten swayed in the past
Right.
when other considerations, um, come into play, but I try and pay heed to that inner voice. There's something, I guess sometimes it's just, you feel like, oh, I want to inhabit this world. I want to be like Shakuntala Devi. I just found her so inspiring. She's a bag of what we see as contradictions, because we've stereotyped women into being good and bad, in black and white. So a good woman is like this, a bad woman is like this.
Right.
So when you see so many, her being this, that, and the other, she seems like a bag of contradictions. So, which is why I was like, you know, I definitely want to live this, try and live this, at least on screen.
Plus, get to wear such fabulous clothes and such lovely hairstyles. That must be a nice part of one of the perks of the job.
Oh, absolutely, and especially for me, because with the kind of characters I play,
I know it.
I'm
Yeah, I think you wear one sari throughout the film.
yeah, something like that, so I hardly ever get to dress up. So I was so thrilled. My team was so thrilled. Niharika Khan's done the costumes. We teamed up after the Dirty Picture on Shakuntala Devi. Also, my hairdresser and makeup artist who've been with me for almost 14, 15 years now, Shalaka and Shreyas, they were so excited. So I must tell you, we, when we got to know that it's now going to release on Amazon Prime, they both called me and said, but we wanted to see this film on the big screen because kitna taiyar kiya tumko.
How is it working with Anu Menon? She did 4 more short please earlier.
Yes, yes, she's
But that
fine.
was quite emancipated.
Yeah, I think, what I like is that once Shakuntala Devi didn't let her gender define her,
Right.
and Anu didn't look at Shakuntala like Devi as if it was a female-centric film. She saw it as a film which was about this hero named Shakuntala Devi.
Yeah.
This towards the force.
Right.
That's what she saw her as. And I think what is amazing, she's actually, Anu Menon is the first female director I've worked with. But I didn't know what to expect, right? I just thought, okay, it's going to be a different experience maybe. And it was a different experience because she's extremely collaborative. So anyone could walk up to her and from any department and say, I'm looking at it like this. I'm looking at the scene like this. What do you think? And she would hear you out and then evaluate that in terms of her overall vision. But I think there was absolutely no ego. But I don't want to put it down to her being a woman. I think this is because of who she is.
Right.
And it's great that my first experience with a female director has been stupendous. It's been amazing. But I don't know whether it's so much to do, it has to do with her being a woman or just her being the person and the professional she is.
I was just about to say that women make so much better leaders, but you've taken that away. I was just about to give us a pat.
But we were a women-heavy team also, huh?
Yeah.
And I think I enjoyed it.
Right.
I was, someone told me, oh my God, you'll have so many women on set. And I used to joke with people saying, but listen, I need some, I can be on set. But it was an incredible experience. I think what Anu managed to do was, bring out the best in people. She's very demanding. And also she had producers in abundance. Bikram Malhotra, who made sure everything she wanted was given to her. She was supported in every way within the constraints of, for example, the budget we had. I think we have a great looking film. We have scale. And I remember my brother-in-law actually told me, he said, oh my God, this is a film you want to see on the big screen because some of those locations are magical.
They're in London mostly?
They're in London and Bombay.
Okay.
A little bit in Bangalore. But yeah.
And some really heritage buildings and I guess where...
Yes, we shot at this location which used to be the original BBC studios.
Okay, wow.
And then we shot in Addington Palace. We shot, which is where The Crown has been shot.
Wow.
So
and it looks so wonderful.
It's lovely, yeah. It's just, like I said again, my stories tend to be more intimate and this gave me the scale. So it
And is it true that you are now going to play Indira Gandhi? It's one of your long cherished dreams in a web
It is
series.
a long cherished dream, but I don't know when that's going to happen, honestly. I was trying to put together a web series, but that didn't quite work out. So whenever it does, it does. I'm still hopeful that it will happen someday.
What makes you want to play her, Vidya?
Just the fact that, when when I think of a powerful woman, the immediate association is Indira Gandhi. Maybe because I was born in 1979, and you know, um, we all grew up
Just
with,
about to come back to power after
yeah,
being.
and you didn't really have those kind of powerful women figures at that point.
Yeah,
I remember seeing uh, her picture on a magazine. It was
yeah,
just a profile shot, and that face, there was something about her, yeah. And having been called, all sorts of names,
yeah.
having been judged for at every step far more harshly than the her male counterparts were. I think she's still counted amongst the most influential prime ministers that we've had.
Absolutely. What about Sherni, the film that you're shooting with Amit Masrurkar? Can you talk a little about that? You play correspondent.
Yes, so that actually deals with, without giving away too much, because we barely shot 30%,
Okay.
and we're hoping to resume post the rains.
Right.
But it actually deals with the man animal conflict.
Okay.
It's a story that's told around that um, premise. And we shot in some beautiful locations
In
in Madhya
Madhya.
Pradesh.
Okay.
And I've been to MP in terms of to the cities,
Right.
but when I went into the literally the heartland, it was such a revelation. I was like, we really need to do something about tourism in India,
Yeah.
because there's so much.
Yeah.
And while we get a lot of tourists and all that, I think, for example, I feel the Americans market themselves better than anyone else. I've been to some places in America that will, people said it's a must see, and when you go there, you really realize there's nothing. Like there was a glowworm, not in America, but I remember in New Zealand, there was a glowworm, um, I don't know what it was called, a cavern or something like that. And you know, I went in and came out in 5 minutes. I traveled 1.5 hours to go see it. So I'm saying India has so much more to offer. We really, really need to do something about it.
Yeah. Just a couple of last questions, Vidya. I know you have lots of other interviews to go to. But one, when you look at some of the younger women who've come after you and who are really treading on the path you set for them, do you feel there's a certain lack of, I wouldn't say gratitude, I don't think you want it from them, but acknowledgement or recognition that this is a path that is traveled by you before and women before you, whether it was Rekha or Meena Kumari, so many women before you as well.
Shabana, Smita,
Right. So
Jaya Bachchan, yeah,
this
Jaya
is a
Bhadri.
path that so many women have traveled before, for them to come to a point where they can articulate themselves so fiercely and fearlessly. Do you feel that there is a certain lack of recognition?
No, I don't think so. I don't think on a day-to-day basis, I acknowledge what women before us have done for us to be able to sit
Right.
here and live our lives the way we want to, say what we want to, and all of that. So I'm not. This is a normal way of life, and I'm still here. I'm hoping. I'm facing the cameras and playing exciting characters till the very end of my life.
Absolutely. I
So
hope so too.
yeah,
And women now can do that, can't they, Vidya? I mean, you have
yeah.
such an elasticity to your career now, much more than earlier.
Oh, absolutely. I think because women generally their lives are not stopping at marriage and childbirth.
Yeah.
In various professions, you have women at various ages.
Yeah.
So, and we are not just doing, you're not just running a beauty parlor, and I'm not looking down on that, but there were very limited options for women. For how many women did we have in science? How many women did we have in the top positions in various multinational organizations? You could count them on the fingers on one hand. But that situation is changing. So obviously, on screen also it's changing.
Yeah. So just the last question. How has the lockdown treated you and how have you treated the lockdown?
I'm actually a home bird, Kaveri, and I tend to go into hibernation anyway in between my films. So
Right.
for me, it wasn't tough at all. And of course, I also recognize that I'm very blessed and fortunate. So I didn't have to worry about, you know, you're just where will the next meal come from, or even I'll get through this month, what about the next month? I don't have such concerns, so maybe I didn't feel the pressure of it. Also, Siddharth and I were at home together for the longest we've ever been since we got together.
You should
So
have at least made a movie together, both of you.
my God,
You're an actor.
he's so camera shy, you will not even believe it. So, he's camera shy in terms of if I tell him, okay, can I post this? He's like, no, 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 no. He's not camera shy otherwise.
Right.
So there's no question of us doing a movie together in the lockdown. And there was lots of housework to do,
Right.
which also I enjoyed normally, but this was like for an extended period of time.
You have
So
to
he
do a
was
lot
also
of cooking.
pitching in. Sorry?
You have to do a lot of cooking and cleaning and all
See,
that.
cooking, I'm actually, for the first time in my life, I got into the kitchen at the age of 41, thanks to the lockdown. So there are things, my mother says, there are things you can be grateful for to the lockdown. Grateful to the lockdown for. But I tried my hand at a few things. Luckily, we had help at home to do the cooking. But for the rest of it, we both pitched in. And I think that was also a lovely experience, to be sharing this, which we never thought we would
Right.
end up doing. I do a lot of cleaning at home, but to see him also with a mop and all was like quite something.
So I'm glad it's an equal partnership at home as well.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
It's been
Yeah.
such a pleasure talking to you, Vidya. Thank you very
Same
much.
here.
All the best to you and can't wait to watch Shakuntala Devi.
Thank you so much, Kaveri.
Thank
Thank you very much.
you. Yeah.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.